UFC octagon. It is no place for the weak of mind, body, or spirit. For 16 years now, this cage has been the site of epic battles that have inspired awe around the globe. Contests of will, strength, and endurance in which mortal men appeared almost superhuman in their ability to withstand pain and in their desire to become champions, to etch their names into UFC history as among the greatest fighters mixed martial arts has ever known. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Goldberg, and welcome to the UFC Ultimate 100 Greatest Fights. Many such fighters have plied their trade in the UFC, gaining fame, fortune, and worldwide respect in fights that will live forever in the minds of those who witness them. And now we're traveling back throughout our history to select the very best of the best of those fights. The Ultimate 100, the greatest UFC battles of all time. For our selection committee, we turn to you, because no one knows their Ultimate fighters quite like the Ultimate fans. The process was open to popular vote online, and the response was overwhelming. Nearly 2 million votes were cast. Now the votes have been counted, and the results are in. Beginning with tonight's episode, over the course of 5 electrifying shows, we're going to count down your Ultimate 100, the greatest fights in the history of the UFC, as voted on by you, the fans. You'll see all the knockouts, submissions, comebacks, and grudge matches. All the high-intensity, non-stop action that you've come to expect from the UFC. And you'll see it all starting right now. Number 100, when UFC 80 traveled to Newcastle, England, 2 British fighters fittingly stole the show. Here's the fight of the night.
Paul Kelly versus Paul Taylor was a battle for England pride.
This is a fight between 2 durable Brits, both of them looking to make a name for themselves.
What a frenetic pace!
Paul Taylor is landing some big shots on Paul Kelly.
That opening 30 seconds was just incredible. Maybe not the smartest thing to do, but they both just stood there and just punched the out of each other, basically.
And the crowd responds. And immediately these guys go to war again. Oh, he buckled him. Taylor. He buckled him. He's got to be careful he doesn't get tripped. Bang.
Big cut open of Paul Taylor.
To go out there and win in such emphatic fashion, you know, beating a guy like Paul Taylor and doing it in such, you know, a good style, you know, really crowd pleasing.
Great brawl. Everyone's on their feet here. Carlos Newton versus Pat Miletich was the first time we ever saw the schoolyard headlock in the UFC.
Oh, my.
It was a great fight up until that moment, very technical fight, but Pat left his neck out there and Carlos grabbed a hold of it with basically just a schoolyard headlock. Carlos Newton showed you can win the UFC welterweight title with that move.
At number 98, a lightweight war breaks out on Fight Night between Kenny Florian and Joe Lauzon.
Anytime that there's 2 real tough guys that come anywhere out of New England and they end up meeting each other, you know, there's a lot of talking, and you know, both guys really wanted to win that fight.
Little intensity in that stare down.
Kenny Florian was presented the opportunity to fight Joe Lauzon in Colorado. The first thing that came to mind was altitude. We, as a team, we showed up to Colorado about 30 days before the bout. We put Kenny in a tent, and he slept in a tent every night to adjust.
Florian, Lauzon, our main event here tonight. There's the leg kick, and Florian with a sprawl. Kenny Florian sets up very nice.
We knew going into the fight that Kenny had the better stand-up. I think Joe realized that, you know, Kenny was the better stand-up fighter, so looked to take it to the ground.
Florian is great in the
is the top of the head. He was right in front of him. Immediately, he's bleeding.
Florian has the mount.
Full mount.
Teeing up on Joe Lozon. Kenny Florian looking to finish. It is all over.
Wow.
Kenny Florian's been around too long, too much experience, and absolutely ripped right through Joe Lozon.
Inside the seminal Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, it's UFC Fight Night Live. The fans are ready, and so are we.
Rashad Evans versus Sean Salmon was the first time we saw evidence of the improvement that Rashad Evans has made in his striking.
And I was like, okay, I gotta perform well. I just had an exciting fight with Jason Lambert. I was like, okay, I gotta go in there and have an impressive victory.
Rashad's striking has improved drastically since the Ultimate Fighter performance.
Did you set him up with a leg kick, or did you plan on going straight to the head?
I plan on going straight to the head. Me and my Thai coach, Michael John, worked on that all camp, and he said it'd be there for it. And I knew I'd catch him with it.
It showed people that I've been working and training on different things, and I can definitely bring it up to the next level to become an exciting fighter.
He served a big notice to everybody in the light heavyweight division that Rashad Evans is not just a wrestler. He can knock you out.
Fighting saved my life, definitely. UFC definitely saved my life because I was working a security job at a hospital. And to be able to fight for a living, and I love to fight, I was all about it. But you can't go in the real world and fight people, you know, it's not very practical and not very smart. So having a place where I can definitely be all of me and express myself the way I like to express myself was just a beautiful thing.
Coming up next, an Ultimate Fighting pioneer. Can he summon Royce Gracie? Returns to face the greatest welterweight champion the UFC has ever known.
And I can actually feel his skull go through the glove.
And not just one, but two early classics in the illustrious career of the Prodigy.
I remember it was at my brother's house. You know, I just watched Dan Severn throw this guy around for 2 or 3 minutes and then beat him. And then he fought Royce Gracie in the finals.
It is the revenge of the Warriors, the laws of the octagon. No round, no time limit. Waits to win the match.
I always looked at Royce Gracie and I thought, you know what, I could beat that guy. Compared to everybody else, he looked small and weak. And I thought, well, here's this big wrestler. He's going to tear this guy up.
Severn diving in and grabbing the leg of Gracie.
Severn might be in trouble now.
And Royce Gracie ends up submitting him with a triangle choke.
He choked him out. Unbelievable.
So that was the first time I was around the UFC. I watched it, and I was kind of hooked ever since.
Number 96 marked the return of true MMA royalty as Royce Gracie stepped back into the octagon after an 11-year hiatus to face Matt Hughes at UFC 60.
When I walked out for that fight, I don't care who it was, I don't think they were going to beat me.
But if Matt Hughes makes a mistake, kid you not, Royce Gracie can finish this fight.
I just didn't lead up to the hype. I kept very positive with my mind.
Fight clean, fight hard, fight fair, touch gloves.
I didn't say I underestimated him, but I just thought with the age difference, things were really going to be on my side.
Are you ready? Let's get it on!
The legend has returned. Yep, Royce has been working strikes.
He's doing a very good job with his front kicks, just trying to keep distance between him and I. He's not a striker, but he's not wanting me to get close enough to him to land my right hand or my big strikes.
Matt would usually look immediately to shoot, but not in this case. At least that's what he told me yesterday. And they tie up.
We come together, and he tries throwing an elbow, and I immediately go into wrestling mode.
Royce tried an elbow, and here we go.
I'm waiting for this magical Gracie move that I've never seen of or heard about it ever in my life, and he's going to submit me in a matter of 30 seconds, and the fight's going to be over.
No guard side control for Matt Hughes as they go down.
Matt Hughes looks like he's looking to mount. He's got a knee on Royce's stomach.
Royce Gracie, this submission expert, has not submitted me yet. The longer time goes by, the more confidence I get. I finally catch him in that straight arm bar.
He's got diesel rigs here in this Kimura.
Can he finish? Can he submit Royce Gracie?
And I hear his elbow. It's making noises. It's popping and crackling. I'm sitting there thinking, this guy's not going to tap. And I'm going to sit here and waste all my energy on this straight arm bar. So I actually let it go.
The brilliance of Royce Gracie demonstrated there. Got his back. Wow!
I'm on his back, my legs are in, and I'm arched up, and I'm throwing my shots, and I can actually feel his skull go through the glove.
Taking some serious punches, and he's in danger. Big John McCarthy stopping this fight.
He went off to tell everybody that it was actually Gracie Jiu-Jitsu that beat him, and I actually disagree. It wasn't Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, it was American wrestling. I plain old out wrestled him.
Matt Hughes has defeated Royce Gracie.
Complete and total domination.
It's just another fight to me, but it's funny how many people come up to me and say, hey, you're the guy that beat Royce Gracie.
I looked at the lightweight division, and I looked at Tyson as being the top contender at that point in time. So I actually asked the UFC, can I fight Tyson Griffin? You get two guys in a cage together that both like to attack and push the pace, and we both have cardio, you're going to see fireworks, and that's exactly what happened.
Nice leg kick by Tyson Griffin there. Very nice combo. He's got such a quick shot.
There was really no turning point. The fight was pretty competitive right up until the very final buzzer. Actually, my hands were so swelled up after the fight, they had to actually cut my gloves off. Yeah, I couldn't pull the gloves off. They had to cut them off.
I was a really hungry kid, and I wanted to make a name for myself.
Coming in at number 94, BJ Penn's second career fight in the UFC. His opponent was Dean Thomas from UFC 32.
Dean had been around for a long time. BJ, came out of nowhere. Everybody thought Dean Thomas was the guy that was finally going to give this kid a run for his money.
He's trying to work the leg. It's about amazing right here. Look at that.
No fear back then, no fear of nothing. I was just a kid.
And now they are on their feet.
That fight's tough, it's tough while it's happening, but as soon as you get that guy and beat him, it's like, no one can ever beat me, I'm the best ever.
Thiago Alves versus Chris Lytle was a barn burner of a fight. Chris Lytle is never in a boring fight. And Thiago Alves is never in a boring fight either. So you put the two of them together, it's just guaranteed dynamite.
Everybody expected this to be just a, a rock'em sock'em war.
Let's go fight. Lytle comes with the overhand right early.
Oh, he got caught.
Over the left eye.
A lot of people were excited because of the stand-up aspect of this fight. Chris Lytle's boxing. Alves, his Muay Thai.
Two guys meeting in the center of the octagon, beating the crap out of each other.
Lytle ends up getting cut and the fight gets stopped, and I think everybody was a little disappointed.
I would love to see a rematch of that fight.
Number 92 is a classic battle from the early career of two future welterweight champions.
Going into that fight, I just had to be prepared I just wanted to take it to him and put the pressure on him. I don't think I trained very smart for that fight. After the first time, I was dead.
Look at Sarah working.
It was technical. I was trying to take him down. I feel I was being the aggressor. But BJ's hard to get to the floor. There was a lot of techniques that I practiced for that fight that I pulled off, where I'd have the single leg and then just go from the single leg to dropping it to back to strikes, back to the single leg, back to strikes, back to running him up against the fence.
Sarah getting fired up, and he delivers another right.
And then I just remember the third round thinking, no matter what, don't get taken down. I was just exhausted. I saw after the fight how tired he was. He had a good poker face on that third round, and I just wish I did a little more.
Up in the Ultimate 100, it's the main event.
It is Shamrock against Franklin.
From a landmark card that shaped the future of the UFC. the Dean of Mean looks to give a fan favorite the shock of his life.
Franklin is determined. Rich Franklin. Wow.
When I quit teaching and I decided to go in the UFC, I really thought that, you know, this was something that maybe I would take a swing at and then be back teaching.
Again, on the bike. Wow. Cold. Very impressive performance by Rich Franklin.
I really had initially planned on taking a year leave of absence from my job. To see things now at this point in my career and the amount of time that I've put into this, it's one of those childhood dreams that you have. And I've been fortunate enough to grow up and live my dream.
At number 91, it's the main event of the first Ultimate Fighter finale, featuring at that time future middleweight champion Rich Franklin and a true UFC legend, Ken Shamrock.
I was probably more nervous for that fight than I had been for any other fight in my career.
Okay, all right, here we go. Where will this fight take place?
I was completely surprised when the fight ended in the fashion that it did.
Can't protect himself. He's on his own. The legend has defeated. Rich Franklin has defeated Ken Shamrock.
Wow. Huge victory for Rich Franklin and really set him up as a young, up-and-coming contender in the UFC.
Number 90 is the exhausting and explosive rematch between BJ Penn and Carl Uno from UFC 41.
Yeah, you noticed, Mike, that they both look like they put weight on.
And now I can say this fight has lasted longer than the first one.
Absolutely. Nice takedown.
That was a hard fight. I think I won the first round. Uno won the second and third round, and then I knew I had to win the fourth and fifth round.
Set up on him and throw a hard punch.
Good takedown again.
Punches, watch this. He hit him in the chin right there, and he just comes forward and throws him. He trips him up. Wow. Takes him straight down. And
instead of takedown by BJ.
Oh,
good combination. Oh, there's a good right by BJ. BJ and another big takedown.
This UFC lightweight championship fight is considered a draw.
A draw is kind of worse than a loss because you don't know what way to go. You know, you don't know if should I act like a guy who won it or should I act like a guy who lost it. I mean, where do I go from here?
At number 89, it was a watershed moment for both Keith Jardine and Forrest Griffin when these two Ultimate Fighters faced off at UFC 66.
Forrest Griffin was being touted as a top contender in the light heavyweight division, and a lot of people were looking past Keith Jardine.
Forrest, again, was another dream opportunity. I couldn't believe I got that fight.
Right hand by Forrest. I think Forrest gained a lot of confidence after that Tito Ortiz fight because a lot of people thought that he won a very close decision there. Keith Jardine always has that awkward style where it always kind of looks like he doesn't really kind of know where he's going. He's zigging and zagging, and it's just a real tough style at the time. Jardine landed a leg kick there. Good right hand by Forrest. Forrest Griffin was still in his brawling stage.
Nice left hook by Jardine.
With the left hook right on the chin, and, you know, he saw the blood in the water.
Big right hand by Keith Jardine. Jardine coming over the top. Oh, Forrest is in trouble. This fight is over. Keith Jardine.
It was a big win for Keith Jardine. That's really the first win that put him on the map.
And that was my first taste of really fighting in the big show in the UFC, and thankfully I pulled it off.
That's one mean dude. Number 88 features an undercard fight that turned into a modern-day classic. Frankie Edgar versus Tyson Griffin from UFC 67.
First of all, both guys young, hungry lightweights, both guys undefeated. Bam! It's always interesting to see when two very good wrestlers compete against each other. This was Frankie Edgar's first fight in the UFC, and they did not give him an easy one.
That was a good uppercut.
And Frankie Edgar, relentless in those punches.
The game plan was just to push the pace. You know, that's always my game plan in most of my fights. I was stoked. It became fight of the night. I mean, your first fight in the UFC, making it to fight of the night. I mean, that's pretty unreal.
This Ultimate 100 Countdown recap is brought to you by the United States Air Force. Experience more at airforce.com. Before we go any further, let's take a look back at everything we've seen so far. Going back to number 100 and the Paul Kelly-Paul Taylor battle from Newcastle, England. And there's the takedown. Big cut open of Paul Taylor. Number 96 featured the return of the great Royce Gracie as he faced off against Matt Hughes at UFC 60.
Can he finish? Can he submit Royce Gracie?
At number 92, the UFC 39 scrap between BJ Penn and Matt Serra.
Serra gets fired up, and he delivers another right.
And at number 88, Frankie Edgar's unanimous decision victory over Tyson Griffin. Still ahead, the Iceman seeks some sweet revenge.
Jeremy Horn has never been knocked out. Whoa! Oh, he stuns him there. This is very dangerous for Jeremy Horn.
And Carl Parisian and Nick Diaz square off in an all-out classic. That is coming up next on the UFC's Ultimate 100 Greatest Fights. Welcome back as we count down the 100 greatest fights in UFC history, voted on by you, the fans. For every great fighter, there's a breakthrough fight, one that etches their names in our memories, that moves them from the category of up-and-comer to budding star, or from star to superstar. In this segment, we'll be taking a look at a few unforgettable classics that built the reputations of some of the UFC's biggest names, including a devastating knockout for Chuck Liddell, a seminal victory for Carl Parisian, a defining upset for Pedro Hizzo, and one of the essential moments in the career of a UFC legend, the late, great Evan Tanner. So let's jump back into the Ultimate 100 with this masterpiece. Number 87, Chuck Liddell looks to get even with Jeremy Horn at UFC 54.
That was when, you know, Chuck Liddell was invincible, and the one guy that everybody thought had the game to beat Chuck Liddell at the time was Jeremy Horn, the guy who had beat him earlier on in his career.
Whoa! Oh, he stuns him there, and Jeremy's in trouble.
The thing is, I just kept going. I was in shape and ready to go as long as he wanted to go.
Just vintage Chuck Liddell. Ruthless punches and kicks, and just stomped Jeremy Horn and sent Jeremy Horn down to the middleweight division.
He got hurt. Jeremy's hurt. He can't see it's over.
His corner or somebody should have stopped that fight a little earlier for him, but he's a tough guy.
Evan Tanner versus Phil Baroni was an excellent example of how a referee can make a mistake and change the entire outcome of a fight.
White shorts for Baroni.
Right hand by Baroni. He dropped
him already. He's trying to go in for the finish. The hand speed of Phil Baroni is ridiculously excessive.
Baroni is beating Tanner on his feet.
But Evan, with tremendous heart, wound up coming back, got Phil on the ground, wound up mounting Phil, and the referee was hovering over Phil and kept asking him, do you want out? And Phil was like looking at him like, I'm fine, I'm fine. And the referee stopped the fight, and Phil went crazy. Very controversial finish to the fight, and really unfortunate interruption by the referee.
Number 85, Carl Parisian and Nick Diaz go to the wall in this unforgettable thrill ride from UFC 49.
I was in really good shape. I was short of the cut. I never had six-pack in my life. I had a six-pack for that fight.
Let's go! Carl does a good job of tying him up. Got a clinch.
Carl was just so tough and durable and has amazing judo throws.
Now this is Carl's world. Oh! is where Nick Diaz got to be careful when he ties up with Carl.
Boom, and another takedown.
Nick Diaz had better boxing and has great jiu-jitsu.
Look at this. Nick Diaz going for a Kimura, which is Carl's move. No, Carl's mounted. Wow, he's still got it locked in. This is, he's got his back. If he can roll over, he can take Carl's back. All right, now Carl's got his back. Oh!
Already
Nick
great
rolls out
chest
of it.
match early.
Wow, very nice. He's getting bloodied up, and he doesn't have the energy to swarm in and try to take Nick Diaz down like he did before.
I was exhausted, I remember, after that fight, because Nick just keeps coming and coming, and that's how he beats people, but he couldn't break the heat.
At number 84, The Rock targets the baby-faced assassin. Here's Pedro Hizzo and Josh Barnett at UFC 30.
Josh Barnett was a young, up-and-coming contender, as was Pedro Hizzo.
Hizzo's now backing up and Josh is following him, and that may be a setup.
Pedro Hizzo showed that devastating knockout power, landed a big right hand on the chin of Josh Barnett, and became the first man to ever knock Josh Barnett out. Josh Barnett is a very tough guy, so this is a huge victory for Pedro Hizzo, who was thought to be one of the very best heavyweights in the world at the time.
When we return to the Ultimate 100, we'll see the Iceman punching his way towards the light heavyweight crowd.
There's another right, and down he goes again. Look at Chuck Liddell.
And a rivalry is born as an up-and-comer faces off against a legend.
Good takedown but not used. That's where he's the man.
The first time when I walked out to fight, I was like, oh my God, I have never heard a crowd that loud. That's when I was like, boom, I was like, all right, man, I've arrived. This is it, this is the UFC.
Victorious in his debut is the 21-year-old.
Nothing is a better feeling than you winning a big fight in the UFC.
At number 83, Chuck Liddell was marching towards the light heavyweight title when Vernon White stood in his path at UFC 49.
It was a good fight. I mean, to be honest, he was tough. He didn't quit, you know. So move up and stop moving and stop his move.
And down he goes.
I don't even remember how many times Chuck dropped him in the first round.
Look at Chuck Liddell.
You know, a lot of guys, you know, get in that position, they've been taking a beating for a while, and someone's on top of them. They'll move them and stop them, move them and stop them, and just sit there and cover it up so they'll stop it.
The place was just going crazy as these two stood toe-to-toe banging, and then Chuck finally knocks him out.
I broke his orbital bone.
White eventually caught a right hand to the eyeball.
Number 82 features one of the most memorable rear naked chokes of all time. Check out George St. Pierre against Frank Trigg.
This is one of the first fights where we got to see the emerging talent of George St. Pierre.
I was very hungry. Trigg, before the fight, has said a lot of bad things about me, and I had a lot to prove.
He's dominating Frank Trigg. This is surprising.
I give everybody the same punishment that they deserve if they do a mistake in the fight.
At number 81, it's an all-out war between John Copenhaver and Jared Rollins.
Every time we have the Ultimate Fighter finales, the fights are so great because of how bad these guys want it.
This is one of the bloodiest fights we've seen in a long time. Both of these guys are coated.
Well, Jared's problem is the blood on the right eye is trickling into his eye, but he still pushes forward.
Jared with the low.
These guys were back and forth. It was an absolute war.
They were beating the crap out of each other. That's a big knee.
Rollins trying to finish again.
It looked like Copenhagen was going to lose the fight. Then he turns the fight around, gets on top, and actually ends up TKOing Rollins.
Copenhagen was very, very emotional at the end of the fight, and just a real crazy match.
Number 80 features the first of 2 fights in a classic UFC rivalry, as legends Rich Franklin and Evan Tanner face off from UFC 42.
Evan Tanner had fought so many times in the UFC, and this was Rich Franklin's debut. A very tough debut for him.
Counter punch. Oh, big high kick. Tanner going for those knees, see?
I just remember coming into that fight and being a major underdog in that fight.
Over the top right hand by Frank. Oh, big left hand.
And wanting to prove everybody wrong and knowing that I could.
But when he's reaching like that, that's a he's hurt.
Evan Tanner was always a tough guy with tremendous heart, but just did not have very fluid stand-up.
Tanner is hurt. He's got to look to bring the fight to the ground. Oh, good roll kick. Right hand.
When Rich beat down Evan Tanner, that really put him on the map. It really let a lot of people know that this kid, this guy from Cincinnati, the school teacher, is a badass fighter, a really, really dangerous guy.
Next up on the Ultimate 100, an unlikely contender stages the single biggest upset in UFC history. And the pound-for-pound king of the sport steps out of his weight class and extends the domain of his dominance. This is the UFC's Ultimate 100 Greatest Fights.
I've been fighting the UFC since UFC 31, and, you know, the journey from there to here is just amazing. The way it became so mainstream, and through the Ultimate Fighter series and the exposure. A lot of guys, they don't see it before and after. I'm one of the guys that was along for that journey, so it's been an amazing ride, man, and I think the UFC is just going to keep going. I think it's just taking over the world, man. It's insane.
Versus George St. Pierre. If you thought Matt Serra was going to win the fight, you would say, well, maybe he would catch George St. Pierre by submission.
You ready? You ready?
Will tonight the defining moment of Matt Serra's career? If Matt connects, he hits very hard. He has very heavy, heavy hands.
Nice right hand by Matt Serra. He seems perfectly comfortable in the exchanges here.
When I was going to fight for the title, man, very few people gave me a shot. Very few. I think only some of the closest people to me actually knew what I could do.
With every minute that goes by, his confidence escalates.
St. Pierre can end it with one big strike from anywhere, though. Serra.
If you look at those 2 fights, that's a set for the better. Oh, yeah. He caught him. He hurt him again. He hurt him again. He hurt him again. St. Pierre is buckled.
When I had George in trouble, I stayed calm, and I picked my shots, and I chose where to hit him, and it worked out great, man.
Serra is going for the finish. Serra buckles St. Pierre. St. Pierre down again. Serra is trying to offset St. Pierre.
Just try to survive and get out, and not actually. I tried to decide to still exchanging with him, even though I couldn't stand on my feet. I was very dizzy, and I learned from my mistake.
No one expected Matt Serra to win the fight. Phenomenal upset. Perhaps one of the biggest upsets, if not the biggest, in mixed martial arts history. Keith Jardine versus Chuck Liddell was a very important fight for Chuck Liddell and Keith Jardine. Chuck Liddell, coming off the Rampage loss, needed to show that he had recovered and that he was in good form. And by taking out a tough guy that stood right in front of him like Keith Jardine, a lot of people thought this was going to be a devastating knockout victory for Chuck Liddell and get him right back into title contention.
You ready? Get on!
Non-title fight scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds.
I always say, you know, I think I could match up well with Chuck Liddell, but you never really know because you look up to the guy. Chuck Liddell is the greatest light heavyweight of all time.
Keith Jardine used a phenomenal strategy of movement, leg and body kicks.
Again with the leg kick by Jardine.
The leg kick set up a lot of things. It made him have to second guess coming forward and kind of mess with his head a little bit. So the leg kicks were huge in that game.
Another leg kick, huge leg kick.
Randy, at this point in time, do you think Chuck is starting to get a little frustrated?
Took me a couple punches, but I figured out the timing, and I was all right. And then from then on, for the next 3 rounds, it was all about keeping my focus.
The most significant damage of this fight has been landed by Keith Jardine over and over again. Final seconds.
Little trickle of blood on Chuck's right eye now as well.
This fight has gone the distance.
I still think I won that fight, but I didn't do enough to complain about a bad decision, you know, so what's the point?
Anderson Silva and James Irvin, we put that one on free TV.
A lot of people did not know how well Anderson Silva was going to do moving up from middleweight, whether or not that power was going to carry over 20 pounds heavier in the light heavyweight division.
So we put him in against a tough guy, James Irvin, always explosive, knocking everybody out.
Let's go! Come Here we go. This is our main event of the evening.
Anderson Silva went through him like a hot samurai sword through butter.
Nice leg kick by Irvin.
And Irvin's in trouble already. Silva trying to finish it. Done. It is all over. Just like that.
Anderson Silva sent a huge message to everybody in the light heavyweight division.
Anderson Silva came out and proved why he's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world.
At number 76, Matt Hughes looks to defend his welterweight title against future lightweight champ Sean Sherk.
That was a big deal for me. You know, I felt like at that point in time I had really established myself as being one of the best welterweights in the world.
He was a wrestler, but so was I. I had more fights than he did. On a piece of paper, if we put the two together, I just thought that I had so many more tools than he did.
I felt like I had something to prove. You know, I was a huge underdog, so I came into that fight very well trained and really focused and wanted to give him the fight of his life.
Come on! Hughes goes for the takedown right away.
My game plan was to go out there and box with him. You know, you got a great wrestler like Matt Hughes, and I'm out trying to box with him, which is, in turn, I'm leaving my legs wide open for him to take me down.
Good takedown by Matt Hughes.
Sherk's a tough guy. I really thought that after I got on top of Sherk the first round, that I would be able to demoralize him, and he'd look for the door.
I was frustrated. I remember my corner guys were trying to give me water, and I'm pushing the water away, saying, I don't want water, just tell me what to do. What am I supposed to do? You know, I'm getting beat. And they said, just go out there and shoot.
Sean Sherk with the takedown.
I came out in the third round, I started shooting, and I started getting takedowns, and I ended up winning the third round. So now I'm back in the fight again.
No quitting Sean Sherk, that's for sure.
He come back in the second and third and fourth and fifth round even tougher than the first round.
Hey, Sean Sherk dissing out a taste of Matt Hughes' own favorite medicine.
The guy who was considered unbeatable, and here's this guy that's this huge underdog putting up this fight that nobody expected him. He's never went 5 rounds before. Nobody even knew if he could. I knew I could because I trained specifically to fight 5 rounds.
They touch gloves in the final round.
The only time I've ever went 25 minutes was with Sean Sherk.
It was a good fight. It was one of those epic battles, you know, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Pleasantly surprised on how the fight went and that I went all 5 rounds.
And that's where we stop the countdown tonight, with 25 down and 75 still to go on the long road to number 1, as voted on by you, our UFC fans. Already we've been through some mind-blowing upsets. Sarah GSP, Jardine Griffin, Kizzo Barnett, some awe-inspiring knockouts, Evan Salmon, Liddell Horn, and Liddell White. And some of the groundbreaking performances on which rest the most enduring legends of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Pensera, Tanner Baroni, Hugh comes Gracie. We've been through all of this, and yet we've only just begun the fight. In the next installment of the Ultimate 100, the whirlwind intensifies as we make our way through the first half of the countdown, starting at the very beginning of the UFC and true mixed martial arts royalty, Gracie Gordeau.
I'm not here for the money, I'm here for the honor of the family.
And making our way forward into more recent history with fights that shocked us, Evans Liddell, amazed us, Mir Nogueira, GSP Trigg, and marked a new era for the UFC by the sheer magnitude of their appeal. Lesnar Couture, GSP Penn. All that and much more when we pick up the countdown in our next episode. Until then, Mike Goldberg saying so long, and we'll see you next time on the UFC Ultimate 100 Greatest Fights.